Yeah. Good morning, friends. This is Durga from ITversity. Those who are joining from YouTube, this is just a backup for my live audience. So I will not be able to answer your questions on YouTube directly. Someone, okay, that's fine. It is just ads. Okay. So those who are joining through YouTube, this is just backup for my live audience. So I might not be able to answer your questions. So bear with me. This is the live class where people are joining by paying, and these YouTube videos are backup for them. But you can learn at your own pace going through those videos. That being said, now let us get started. I hope everyone on WebEx can see my screen and can hear me. Okay. Don't worry, Prashanti. I took care of muting everyone. If you have to unmute, I will tell at that time. So people on WebEx, please confirm that you guys can see my screen and you can hear me. At least one person. Once you confirm, I will get started.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you. So you can mute yourself. So now let us get started. Okay. So as you guys are aware, most of you guys have gone through my introductory session and also yesterday's session about dry run, about WebEx and all. So I will directly get into the agenda. So the agenda will be published on my website. Okay, along with the detailed curriculum, everything will be available on the website, which is itversity.com. Okay, there are few folks. So let me suggest them. Okay, so let's get started. So the agenda will be available on the website. The location will be courses. And for this week and probably 1 or 2 sessions next week, I'll be covering this course, which is Learn Scala for Spark. Okay, so this is the main link for the reference material. And we will start with getting started. Then we'll talk about functions and operators. Then we will talk about object-oriented concepts. Someone is not on mute. Can you go on to mute? Okay. Then we will talk about collections and tuples. Then we will also see how to develop end-to-end programs using Scala as programming language. So as part of getting started, it is primarily setting development environment. Okay, just give me a moment, okay? I will take care of that. Some people are complaining that my voice is not clear. So let me fix it real quick. Probably I might have to go to wired connection. Okay, so it might get disconnected. So if it gets disconnected, don't worry, I'll be right back, because I have to disable Wi-Fi once I do the wired connection. Okay, so there is some issue with the networking. 1 minute. There is Amar, that's fine. Right now, yours is not streaming, as per my knowledge. I also I am also not sure. Probably you might have to right click and you should be able to disable. Okay, so let me also confirm in YouTube. that streaming is happening properly. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, let's proceed further. My wired network is not working, so bear with me for today, even if it is breaking. Sometimes it could be issue on your side also. So if too many people complain, I will try to fix the issue immediately. But if it is clear for many people, and if only some people have issue, then we will see. You have to troubleshoot on your side as well. Anyway, so this is the curriculum. Okay, Venkat is saying it sounds clear to him. So probably you might have to people who are joining from India. It will be better to connect through wire so that the bandwidth will be a little bit better. Okay, so let's get started. So we will start with setting up development environment. So here for this week we will not be talking anything with respect to big data. We'll be only focusing on Scala as a programming language. We will get into details about Scala in a while. So what you guys have to do probably by tomorrow's class is you have to go through this setup development environment topic, okay, which will cover how to set up Scala, how to set up IDE, etc. If you have any issues while setting up, you can follow up on forums. We will be there to support you. And also, I will spend some time tomorrow to resolve some of the issues. Okay, but most likely, if you follow this, you should be good to go. But the demos are done based on Mac, so you might have few issues with respect to Windows. But don't think that okay, this is demoed using Mac, so it will be tough to do using Windows. You will be able to do that without much challenges. But if you face any challenges, you have to you have to go to discuss.itversity.com and you can write the questions over there. So okay. So 1 minute, one person is okay. Let me tell that person that. Okay, that guy left the meeting. Anyway, if that guy comes back and if he say he cannot hear, someone will help him. Okay. Okay, so go through this topic and make sure you set up the environment by tomorrow. Okay. So now I will start explaining few tools with respect to Scala. Once you set up Scala, when you run command called Scala, it will launch something called REPL. REPL stands for read, evaluate, print, and loop. Okay, this is also called as command line interface traditionally. If you are familiar with Oracle, you might have used SQL Plus in your projects. So it is similar to that. There will be a bunch of commands which you can run through from here, or you can actually test your code also directly here. Almost all the programming languages these days have this REPL or command line interface. Not only Scala, even Java is coming up with similar environment. So you might have in future versions. So if you are a Java developer, if you want to write a hello world program, you have to write at least 5-6 lines of code. Whereas here using REPL, you can just say print hello world or println hello world. Okay. Println means it will in the end you will see a new line character as well. So this is as simple as that. You don't need to write 5 lines of code, then compile, then run using Java command. You just write println, and you will be able to you will be able to see the output immediately. So one of the advantages of Scala is you don't need to write as many lines of code as in Java. And second thing is you can import anything using import command, and then I will show a few examples later. So if you want to use a particular class, and if you are not sure about the full name, there is a feature of autofill here. So for example, let's say Scala is the main package, and I'm not sure what all classes and packages that are available under Scala. So I can type Scala dot and hit tab. It will show the list of classes and packages under it. So it will be very easy for you to actually navigate through the packages and start using whatever you want. So autofill is another good feature in REPL. Okay, and the next thing is help. So if you want to get help, you just say "help," and there are a handful of commands which you can get used to over a period of time. Help is to get the details. If you just say help, it will show a list of commands. If you want help of a particular command, you can say help and let's say paste. Okay, so it will give the details about that command. So paste will help you to go to the paste mode or paste a file, which we will see later. I just want to highlight the purpose of help here. If you want to come out of this, you have to use quit, and it will come out of the Scala. So help and quit are good enough to begin with. You don't need to worry about other things at this time. Okay, and then as part of this, you will also set up not only Scala but also Scala IDE and also SBT. Okay, SBT stands for Simple Build Tool, and so there is a question. So Dheeraj is asking whether I'm working on Unix. Very good question. No, I'm using my Mac. I'm not using Windows. So all the folks, I will highly recommend you to install Cygwin on your PC. Okay, not for Scala purpose, but in general, if you want to go for Linux, etc. For Scala purpose, you can just launch DOS prompt. You might be familiar with DOS prompt. Okay. Once you go to the DOS prompt, once Scala is installed, you just have to type Scala, and it will get into the REPL, and you can perform whatever I have performed earlier. Only thing is, I am using Linux terminal. You might be using Windows DOS prompt. Okay. So I think that person who named as push, he is not sure how to connect to the audio. He is leaving and coming back. If he joins back, please ping him and tell him that he has to call using computer. So I'm asking one of my friend who is attending the live session, so he will help him. Okay. Yeah, he joined. So ping him. Okay, Shakti already informed him. Thank you, Shakti. Okay, so this is about Scala. Don't worry too much about at this time. Make sure that you understand there is a tool called REPL, Scala REPL, which you can launch using Scala command. And the main purpose of REPL is to validate your code. Okay, to submit as an application, you cannot use REPL. REPL is only useful to validate your code before you add it to your actual application. We will see that later. You will see the advantage of that when we actually start developing the programs. On top of Scala, as part of the instructions, I have also covered something called SBT. SBT stands for Simple Build Tool. Okay. And you can develop Scala projects using Maven also. If you're from Java background, you might have heard about Maven. It is primarily either Maven or SBT is primarily to resolve the dependencies of your application, and also to build into a jar file so that you can deploy it later. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. If you haven't done any builds earlier using Maven, you will understand when we actually see SBT in action. But for now, you need to understand the relevance of SBT, and SBT also have REPL. You just type SBT and hit enter. Okay, you see it is actually trying to get into the environment. It is taking some time. Okay, so now SBT is launched. Here also you can run help and you can see different stuff here. Don't worry too much about this at this time. We will see it later. But why I'm covering is once you set up the environment following this topic, which is part of learn Scala for Spark. Only this one, and wherever environment is set up, you have to take care from your side, and we will support in case of any issues. Don't think that I will be throwing links like this going forward. Yeah, so the main link for this lesson, for this course actually, for your reference is this one, Learn Scala for Spark, and you can see the index for the course here. So getting started is the first lesson, and first topic is setup development environment. Okay, now I'm talking about Scala REPL or CLI. Okay, and also I have covered SBT, so that once you set up the development environment, you are you know what you are trying to do. And the third component, which is relevant as part of setup development environment, is Scala IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Okay, so there are many editors. The simplest editor can be VA editor in Unix or Linux, and Notepad in Windows. But you cannot write programs for big applications using simple editors like it, like VA or Notepad, or even sophisticated editors like TextPad, UltraEdit, Notepad++, etc. You need to have IDEs, integrated development environment, where the frameworks can be easily plugged in, and you can accelerate the development of your applications. Hence, we need to set up IDE. And the most popular IDEs are Eclipse and Scala. Eclipse and IntelliJ. Okay, Eclipse and IntelliJ. So as part of the course, we will be using IntelliJ. As part of the course, we will be using IntelliJ. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so some people in YouTube are complaining the screen is blurry. You can actually click on this icon and change the quality. Most likely, you might be watching under 144p or 240p, whoever is watching on YouTube. So make sure you increase the resolution. But if you increase the resolution, if your bandwidth is not good, you will be seeing pauses. Okay. Okay, so there is a question. So Amari is saying, I installed IntelliJ, it is asking for license. Can we go for the trial version? So I'm getting there. So let me complete about the IDEs. So we have two IDEs which are popular, with Eclipse and IntelliJ. They're earlier they are primarily Java-based IDEs, but now they keep on adding more and more components to it. Now they have almost complete support for Scala. IntelliJ is better compared to Eclipse. So I'll be covering using IntelliJ, but you can set up environment using Eclipse also. So if you are already a Java developer and if you want to stick to Eclipse, send me an email. I will share the details about how to set up Scala plugin with Eclipse along with SBT. Okay, because even though you are using Eclipse, you should not use Maven to build Scala projects. You have to use SBT. So for Eclipse folks, I will send the details about setting up a Scala plugin and also SBT along with it. It is a little bit tedious with Eclipse compared to IntelliJ. So now IntelliJ, you will see detailed instructions with respect to IntelliJ as part of the topic also as under setting up development environment. But I try to cover few important aspects so that it is as smooth as possible for you. So first and foremost thing, don't set up the enterprise edition. You have to set up the community edition. So for someone it is asking for license. Most likely you might have set up the enterprise edition. So you search for IntelliJ, hit enter, click on this. So if you scroll down or if you click on download here, it will go here. You have ultimate and you have community. Ultimate is the licensed version. Community is non-licensed version. So you can click on download. It will download completely. Okay. And then what you have to do is you have to launch IntelliJ. Don't try to set up with me because there are some prerequisites like JDK and all, which I have covered as part of the blog. So follow the blog instead of following me directly. Okay, so once you launch IntelliJ, one of the confusion is people will think that Scala is available immediately, but that is not the case. Rather, when you launch one minute, not this one. Let me close. So you will see window like this. Okay. So when you launch IntelliJ for the first time, this is very important for you guys. So please listen. When you launch IntelliJ for the first time, you have to install Scala plugin. Okay. So you have to click on configure. You have to go to plugins. Then you can search for Scala here. You might see it here. You might not see it here. If you don't see it here, click on browse repositories and then search for Scala. Okay. So there is Scala language. You can choose this one. And if you don't have Scala yet, you will see install button here. You just have to click on install. And when you launch Scala plugin in IntelliJ, it comes with SBT automatically. You don't need to again set up SBT separately. Okay. So click on install and it will be done. Once you close, it will take you to the original window, which is this one. And then you can create new project. And by default, you will go to this one. Again, this is very important. This is where people start raising a lot of issues. So I'm emphasizing on it. So please listen to this. By default, when you launch IntelliJ, Java will be selected. Even in Java, you see Scala. So a lot of guys, they just choose Scala here, and they click on next, and they will try to set up the project, which is not correct. This Scala is not SBT based. Hence, you have to choose this one. And you can see there is a SBT option here. So choose SBT and then click on next. So here you have to choose SBT. You have to give the name for the project. Choose the SBT version and choose the appropriate Scala version, as I have explained as part of the video. And then you will be good to go. So let me create. So S&S, which stands for Scala and Spark 2016, 2017-06. So this will be the new project which I will be creating. And Scala version, I will be using 2.10.6. There's a reason for that. And this Scala which we are using here is not related to the Scala which I have explained earlier. Okay, so earlier From the command line, I run Scala command to launch REPL. This is set up separately, and you can see here the Scala version is 2.11.11. Okay, but here while setting up the project, we can choose whatever you want, and it uses its own Scala internally. So what about others? Can you guys see my screen, or is it paused? Okay, that's fine. So here I have chosen 2.10.6. You can choose whatever Scala version you want. For this project, it will try to maintain the Scala version which we have chosen here, and then click on finish. Okay, so here you will see the layout of the project like this. The most important file is build.sbt, and it will take some time to build. See here at the bottom right corner, it is building something, and it will take a few minutes of time to build. First time it will take a little bit more time, but from second time it will just take a half minute to 1 minute. Now everything is clean. Okay, and I will explain details about this build.sbt and the directory structure and all those things a little bit later. So this will conclude the setting up of your environment. You have to come to this point by tomorrow at the least. Okay, now let's go back to the main course. So I will not take any questions here because you have to set up the environment to really understand what is going on. So tomorrow we will see if you run into any issues. Now I will actually get into introduction to Scala. So we will see the history and also few details about the programming language. Scala is a JVM based programming language. Okay, JVM means Java Virtual Machine. So let me open a PPT over here. Just give me a moment. Okay, so this is the PPT. So let me get onto the slideshow. So you have the computer or server at the bottom. Then you have operating system. So once you buy a physical server, you set up the operating system on top of it. Operating system can be Windows or Linux or Mac OS, whatever it is. Okay, and then you will have a JVM. The JVM will be different for each of the OS. So for Mac there is a separate JVM. For Windows there is a separate JVM, and for Linux there is a separate JVM. JVM is the abstraction layer between the program and the underlying computer. Okay, so when you compile your program, the program will be compiled into the bytecode, and that bytecode will be executed by JVM by talking to operating system. And then this is, I have already explained about this compiler and bytecode. So the compiler will each programming language will have a compiler which will generate the bytecode, which will be common to all JVMs, and JVM will interpret that bytecode and talk to the underlying operating system to send the instructions to your computer and get the results as per the program you have written. Okay, so the programming language on top of JVM can be Scala, Java. So Java is the first programming language which started with as a JVM language, but after that there are many other languages. Scala is also one among them. So these are the different programming languages: Groovy, JRuby, Jython, Scala, Clojure, Kotlin. All these are JVM programming languages. So what is the difference between these? So the syntax and semantics of your program while writing program is significantly different from one programming language to another programming language. But the way they run internally will be same. Everything will be compiled into, means whether you write a Scala program or a Java program or a Clojure program or a JRuby program, the program will be compiled into the bytecode which can be interpreted by JVM or Java runtime environment. If you want to learn multiple programming languages, you have to spend enough time to understand the programming constructs, syntax, semantics, etc. Okay, so that is what JVM means and the JVM programming languages. Okay, so here again I'm highlighting the same thing from different perspective. So let's say we have two computers, one running on Windows and one running on Linux. Each one will have a different JVM, but the bytecode will be same. So you can compile on a Windows machine and you can ship it onto Linux and it will be running without any issues. And then there will be different programming languages like Java, Scala, Groovy, Kotlin, Clojure, where the syntax and semantics will be different. Okay, but each of them will have a compiler which will compile into a .class file, which is nothing but a bytecode which can be interpreted by JVM. Okay, so let's go back here. And Scala is actually written by I think he's a Swiss professor from Switzerland. His name is Martin Odersky. He is the founder of the language, and he has very good content on Coursera. If you are interested in learning Scala as a programming language to develop web applications, etc., follow his courses on Coursera. It will definitely throw a lot of light using Scala itself as a programming language. But our main agenda is to learn Scala for Spark. So there are certain components of Scala which you need to master. You don't need to master the entire programming language. Okay, that is about introduction of Scala. I have already covered REPL or command line interface, so I will not be talking about that for now. Now let's get on to the next topic, declaring variables in Scala. So there is a question here. Feel free to ask questions anytime, as long as it is relevant to what I'm talking about. Probably from tomorrow onwards, towards the end of the session, for 5 to 10 minutes, we can spend some time for general Q&A. You can ask any question. It need not be relevant to the content. So the question from Jana is, would like to know why Scala is preferred over Python for Spark. Very good question. So one of the reasons why I am emphasizing on Scala is a lot of guys are from Java background in the programming world. For them, transitioning to Scala might add more value than transitioning to Python. Okay, that is one reason. Second reason is Scala, Spark itself is written in Scala. Okay, and until Spark 2, Scala runs differently, and means the Spark applications written in Scala runs differently, and the programs that are written in Python runs differently, and there is a considerable performance difference between the Spark-based applications which are developed using Scala and Spark-based applications using Python. For that reason, a lot of guys tend to implement using Scala. That is second reason. Third reason, as Spark is written in Scala, definitely when they upgrade or when they add more and more features, probably Scala will have less defects. Scala will be a lot more. The integration with Scala will be a lot more seamless. For that reason, I am biased towards Scala. But most of the big data projects are developed in Scala. But in general, Python is more popular language when it comes to implementing ETL projects, etc. So learning Scala as well as Python have almost same value. Okay, you can choose one over the other depending upon your background. If you're already familiar with Python, just go for PySpark and learn Spark from Python as programming language. If you are a Java developer, probably choosing Scala might be a little bit more intuitive. For non-open programmers, such as people from mainframes background, etc., it doesn't matter. So Pramod is asking, please explain what is functional language. We will see that when we actually start talking about the syntax. Okay, you will understand as we proceed further. Don't worry about that at this time. When we talk about functions and the power of Scala while using functions, etc., if I emphasize on that, it will make a lot more sense than talking about what is functional programming language at this time. Okay, so let's differ for now. Let's understand the programming constructs of Scala, and we will definitely be able to understand what is functional language by the end of the course. I will try to emphasize wherever it is relevant. So next comes declaring variables in Scala. Okay. So when it comes to Java or any traditional programming language, one of the way you typically define data types is you will say int and then a, and if you want to initialize, you will initialize. Otherwise, you will not initialize. Okay, this is how you typically declare. If you want to create object, you will say integer a. Okay, and by default, each of these variables are mutable. Means you can once you define like this int a equal to 0. Okay, within the scope of the program, you can change the value of a to some other value. If you can change, it is mutable. If you define it as final, okay, within the program, within the scope of the program, you will not be able to update this value. A will behave like a constant. You cannot update the value of a within the scope of the program where it is declared as final. Okay, so here declaring the data type of the variable is mandatory in programming language like Java. In lot of modern programming languages like Python, Scala, or Ruby, you don't need to declare. Based upon the value you pass, it can infer the data type of it. Okay, so if I say a equal to 0, that means a will be integer because 0 is of type integer. If I say a equal to hello, a will be of type string. Okay, similarly, depending upon the value, the data type of a will be determined. But if you just say equal to hello in Scala, it will not work. Okay, you have to use a keyword before a, not the data type, but val or var. You have to use one of them. Val means it is immutable. Okay, var means it is mutable. Var for variable, val for value. So you are defining a value for a variable called a while creating itself, and it will not be it will become immutable. You cannot change it. Okay, so if I say val a equal to 0, you can see the data type is automatically inferred. You don't need to define the data type. But if you want to define data type explicitly, you can do that. You can say like this. The syntax is a little bit different. It will not come before the variable name, but it will come after the variable name, and you have to put the colon also immediately after the variable name. Okay, so both are same. Now if I want to override the value of a, it complains saying that reassignment to val. Okay, so val means the variable is immutable. You cannot change the state of the variable. And if you define it as var, now I am destroying a variable a and creating, I'm destroying a, which is a immutable variable, with someone is not on mute. Can you please go on to mute? Let me see who. So who is this? Hey Raj, can you? Hello. Let me fix it. Okay. Sorry for that. Anyway, so I have defined variable a to 0. So here what I'm doing is I'm destroying this a and recreating it. Unlike here where I'm trying to reset, override the value or change the value to 1. Here I am destroying the old a and recreating the a, which is mutable this time. Once you define it as a, within the scope of the program, if you want, you can override it. Now a's value is reset to 1. So if it is defined as val, the variable is immutable. If it is defined as var, the variable is mutable. Okay. So that is about val and var. This is mandatory. You have to tell whether whatever you are declaring is a variable or a value. Okay. Value means immutable. Variable means mutable. I have also covered implicit data types and type inference. Also, I have covered explicit data types. Now let us understand this statement. Yeah, so there is a question, can now a be assigned to string? A cannot be assigned to string. You have to recreate it as a string. Okay, so if I say a equal to hello, the data type is already defined here itself. Okay, so you cannot assign a string to it, but you can recreate by saying val or var. Very good question. Because in Python you can do it. Python it's not a strongly typed programming language, whereas Scala is a strongly typed programming language, even though we are not defining the data types. So once the variable is created, the data type is defined to it, even though you do not explicitly specify it. So that's the difference between Python and Scala. One of the major difference between Python and Scala. Python is loosely typed. You don't need to define the data types. You don't need to tell whether it is mutable or immutable, and you can override value at any point in time. Python is more of a scripting language, whereas Scala is a more of a object-oriented functional programming language. So we'll get to that. We haven't covered that yet. So I will explain the details about data types later. Let us understand this statement. There is no distinction such as primitive types and classes for primitive types. So if you talk about Java, what are the primitive types? You have int, byte, char, float, double, etc. So these are primitive types. Okay. And for each of these things, you also have classes. Don't worry if you are not a Java programmer and if you don't understand this thing. This statement is primarily for Java developers to understand some of the important differences between Scala and Java. So you have integer, byte, char, float, etc. Why Java provided both? Primitives are typically faster, okay, compared to classes. So if you want to add two numbers, it's better to create two int type variables and add those values and assign it to third variable if you want. But there needs to be some functions on top of those. There need to be some special functions. For example, if you pass a string, and if the value in that string is all numbers, if you want to change it to integer, you cannot do using primitives. For that purpose, they have created classes, and as part of the classes, if you are familiar with integer, it has a class method called value of, and you can pass string to it, and you will get the integer value from it. There are some functions like that. I'm not 100% on the exact name, but there are some functions like that. So the classes will provide those features of adding additional necessary functionality for some specific purposes. That's why we have both primitive types as well as classes for the same data types. Okay, int and integer for to store integers. Whereas in Scala, there is nothing like that. Okay, everything is a class in Scala. If you have to define integer type of variable, You have to say explicitly like this, or it can be inferred automatically. It will always be like this. Okay, but one good thing is, as I have mentioned to you earlier, when we compile a Scala program, okay, it will compile into a Java bytecode which can be interpreted by JVM. So the Scala compiler will hide the complexity, and when it compiles, if it think that so if you just declare two variables like a equal to 3 and b equal to 5 and then a plus b, here these are all primitive operations on integers. We are not using any special functions. Okay, no, don't come to those conclusions, Dheeraj. We will talk about later. It is not like Linux. It is similar to scripting language, but there are some considerable differences. Okay, don't relate Unix and Scala or Unix scripting and Scala. They are significantly different. Oh, okay, so let me answer this and let me explain this. So here I have declared two integer variables, and I have performed a primitive addition on these two numbers. So these are all primitive operations. So internally, Scala is smart enough to use primitives. So if you write a Java program to add two integers with primitive types, whatever code it will generate, whatever bytecode it will generate internally, Scala also will generate almost the same code when you perform the primitive operations like this. But if you have a string, val str equal to 100, okay, and then if you say str dot and to int, okay, so here what we have done, we have created a string. Sorry, not this one. Let me see, int dot. Yeah, so this has a function called toString. Okay, let's say I want to create a variable a with value 100, and if I say a dot toString, okay, so this toString will not be, so primitives will not have the functions. So here, whatever bytecode that will be generated with a variable integer and applying toString function on top of it, similar bytecode will be generated internally. So Scala is smart enough to use primitives as primitive types as primitives for primitive operations. For special functionality, where it has to be object-oriented functions, it will generate the bytecode as per that. So as these are called as value classes. So all primitive types are called as value classes. Okay, so you don't need to worry about whether the operations will be compiled into primitive type of stuff or non-primitive type of stuff. Okay, so let me take few questions here. I hope everyone is clear on it. If you are not, please let me know. I will try to explain once again. So one question from Suman is there any difference between int and integer in Scala? So you should not use integer. Okay, even though as Scala is a functional programming language running on JVM, all Java packages can be accessed in Scala. Okay, even though it is even though the APIs are available, whatever is there in Scala already, you should use Scala classes only. For example, as Suman is mentioned, we can say, I hope we can say like this. I never tried it. Yeah, we can say integer, but this integer is most likely Java integer, whereas int is Scala. So if there are classes, if there is a Scala version of class, try to use Scala version. Don't use the Java version. The only reason why they made Scala and Java interoperable is there are some Java APIs which are not developed in Scala yet. So you can add those as plugins, and you can start using those as part of your Scala programs using the Scala syntax. You don't need to write complex Java programs, you can actually try to use the APIs provided from Java using Scala syntax as well. Okay, so to answer your question, Suman, so here integer is Java version, int is Scala version. So if you are dealing with such kind of classes where you have both in Scala as well as Java, try to use Scala version only. Okay, so will help give me details of this function? No. Very good question, Amog. So if you see help, this help is primarily about Scala commands, Scala REPL commands, not the. So whatever we are writing is not command. This is code. Okay, all this is code. They are not commands. So help is only for these commands to get the details of these commands. But there are some things I think which will give the details. We will see later. Let me see if I. No, you cannot actually. Okay, to get the details about the function, is it only for Srinivas or is it for everyone? Srinivas is saying that the screen is hung. What about other guys? Is it okay for you guys? Okay. So yeah, to answer what is his name? Amog's question. If you want to get the details about toString, what you have to do is we have, I think B, right? Which one is assigned to 100? Yeah. So you can say a dot toString and hit tab again. It will give the help for that, or it will give the syntax and all the details that are required. Okay, so Amog, this is how you can get the details about the function. We will see that as we proceed further. We will be using this quite a lot, so you will understand about how to interpret the details which it will provide to you here. Okay, so the next question from Bala is, does Scala support the OOP concept? So Scala is a functional as well as object-oriented programming language. Okay, it is both. It is not just functional. Okay. So next thing is, yeah, I have covered all these things. So now this will give the details about all these value classes. Byte is 8-bit signed to two complement integer. So it can store between -128 to +127. Byte can store 255 values, -128 to 128, similar to Java. It's almost same as Java. Short is 2-byte integer. It stores between -32,768 to 32,767. Integer, it's a 32-bit number. Long, it's a 64-bit. Char, it's a 16-bit unsigned Unicode character. So you will have 255 values within character type. String, a sequence of characters. Float, 32-bit IEEE 754 single precision float and double 64-bit. Boolean, you can have true or false. So you can try these things to understand more about data types. Okay, there are a couple of more questions here. The question from Ben is, do we need to have Java background to understand Scala? So as I have explained earlier, even though Scala is a JVM based language, the syntax and semantics is significantly different. Okay, so most except for 10% advantage, if you are from the development background, irrespective of the programming language you worked on before, Java programmers will not get much advantage. It's syntactically it is much different compared to Java. Okay, so to answer your question, you don't need to have Java background to understand Scala, but you need to learn Scala as a complete programming language, at least for data processing. You don't need to learn frameworks such as Play, which is primarily to develop web applications using Scala, you don't need to go to that extent, but you have to spend enough time to learn Scala from the processing perspective, and I'll be covering that as part of these sessions. Okay. So that is about declaring variables. You, if you are interested, you can do this simple task by tomorrow class after setting up the environment. Okay, now let's get on to the basic programming constructs. So what are the basic programming constructs? The if condition, the for loop, while loop, etc. Okay, so before doing that right now, so far what we are doing, we are just creating variable like this, and then if you want, you can actually say value of a is 0. Okay, so you are reading a here and you are printing it. So whenever you write a code like this, and when you hit enter, internally what is happening is it is actually creating the class and then executing the class, and then it is returning the results. That's why it is called as REPL. So when you type this code snippet, don't use the term command here. It's a code snippet. Commands are the ones which starts with colon. These are commands. Okay, so use the term code snippet. So I have written a single line code snippet which is value equal to 0. So when I hit enter, what will happen? It will be read, it will be evaluated. What will happen when it evaluate? Internally, it will create the necessary class. So to run a Java program, to run a class in Java, you need to have a class name. You need to have a public static void main, and you have to pass arguments. Let me show you a simple example. So this is a simple program. It's a Java program. So you have to write like this. You have to define class. You have to define static void main. You have to accept arguments of type array of string, and then you have to say system.out.println hello world. So when you compile a program which is written like this, the corresponding bytecode will be created by Java compiler. Similarly, even though you haven't write all that code, this single statement will actually create a implicit class which will have a static main function, which will have a declaration of variable final int a over there. Okay, that will be one program. And then when you actually println, what will happen? A is declared here. So as we are printing in the same session, it will club these two things, and it will again compile into a Java program, and it will execute. Again it will be compiled into a Java class or JVM based class or Java bytecode, and then it will get the results for you. Okay, so whatever this program is compiled into, even the Scala program will be compiled into the same. So every code snippet, when you hit enter, it has to go through that entire cycle. The Scala compiler will actually add additional metadata to compile into a proper bytecode, which can be interpreted by JVM. But the complexity is hidden from us. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand too much. This is primarily for Java developers. Others you can ignore if you do not understand anything what I have explained. Okay, so now if you want to write a complex program with using REPL itself, if you want to validate code, you might have to write a multi-line code. There are several questions. I will come back to that those questions in a moment. So here, let's say I want to write a little bit complex code. If you go to help, there is a command called paste. Okay, so the paste command will actually let you to write a multi-line code. Okay, you can also say like this: value a equal to 0, put a semicolon, and then say println value of a is 0. This is also a valid code snippet, and this entire code snippet will be compiled into Java bytecode by the Scala compiler, adding the necessary metadata. Okay. But if you want to write it in a multiple line code, and if you want to compile as one unit, what you have to do is you have to start in paste mode. So it says entering paste mode. Once you are done with the code, hit Control D. So now you can say val a equal to 0, and let me add this also. Once it is done, hit Control D. Both the lines of code will be compiled as one unit. Okay, so that is the relevance of paste, which is one of the very frequently used command in REPL, because typically we'll write multiple lines of code quite often to validate. Okay, so let me take these questions before I proceed further and talk about the programming constructs. Okay, Sandeep is asking the plus a. So here plus is a string concatenation operator and a is a variable. So value of a is of type string. Plus is just a operator which will override, and then a is variable which we are concatenating to the string. Okay, so it will print 0. It should be a, because I'm trying to print a. Okay, sorry. Yeah, now I got it. Yeah, thank you. I hope, Sandeep, it is clear now. You should not use like this. You have to give the variable name here. We are not actually, earlier I was not actually printing value of a. I'm just adding, concatenating 0 to the string. Yes, Jitendra, it is correct. It has to be plus a. Thank you very much for all of you guys. I didn't see that. I just carried away with what I'm explaining. Okay. So now let's go to the basic programming constructs. So one of the feature in Scala is you can not only assign a single value like this. You can actually assign a result of code to it. So this is the example for it. So here I am creating a variable I and a variable j using math.random, which will generate a random number multiplied by 100, and then I'm typecasting it to integer, because math.random will generate a float value. Okay, so what I'm doing, I am multiplying. So math.random will generate a float some random decimal between 0 and 1. Okay, so I want to convert it into integer. So I'm primarily multiplying by 100, integer within 100, and then I want to typecast to integer. Even math.random multiplied by 100 will return a double value. So I'm now converting into integer. So I'm trying to generate a random value between 0 and 100. So this have given 81 this time. If you run it again, it will give some other value. So here I am generating, I'm creating two variables using math.random, which will assign a integer number between 0 and 100, and I'm subtracting the second value from the first. So here, if I paste this, the code which is there on the right side will be evaluated first, and the result will be assigned to variable C here. Okay, now C will be 20. Okay, so you can also assign the results of a block of code to a variable. Okay, and the last statement will determine what needs to be assigned to this. So if I remove I minus j here, I can actually get to the paste mode and copy this code here. Except the last line. Control D. If you see here, we are not doing any arithmetic as the last statement, and we are not returning anything. Okay, we have just created two variables. So we are not returning anything here. Hence, the return type is unit. So everything is class in Scala. So if it returns nothing, it will return a object of type unit. Okay. So instead of I minus j, let's say I want to say hello world. And then Control D. The last statement is hello world. So C and the after evaluating, the last value will be assigned to C, which is of type hello world. So unit is not data type. Unit is a class in Scala, which means it returns nothing. Okay, you should not use term data type. Data types are limited to those primitives, integer, float, double, etc. And also the actual classes which we will be creating. Okay, so it is kind of void. So Jitendra is asking, I think toInt will just chop off the rest of the number. I'm not sure whether it will generate a rounded value. It will just remove the decimal. So for example, math.random have generated this number. Okay, so if I say toInt on this, if it is rounded, it should return 0, right? Sorry, it should return 1 if it is rounded. But if you say like this and say toInt, it will return 0. So it is not rounding. It will just ignore the decimal and give this value before the decimal. Okay. Paste is primarily to write multiple lines of code. I have explained in detail earlier also, Pramod. So if I write code snippets in separate lines, so this one and whether you paste it in paste mode and run it, or you run it like this, it will not make any difference. But if you end a statement like this, immediately it will be evaluated. In this case, it will not be evaluated because I open a curly braces. So Scala compiler will be expecting multiple lines of code to be written here. Okay, only advantage with paste mode is you can sometimes what you have to do is you cannot write the entire code in one curly braces like this. You have to write multiple blocks of code. If you don't go to the paste mode, and if you don't type as one unit, each block will be evaluated separately. For example, you see here, I have a very big program. So if I copy paste this entire stuff in a regular mode, for each and every end of statement, so this one will be executed, then this one will be executed, then this one will be compiled and executed, then this one will be compiled and executed, then this entire stuff till here will be compiled and executed, then this code snippet will be compiled and executed, like that. If I copy this entire stuff and go to the paste mode, instead of pasting directly, once you paste, if you hit Control D, so the entire program will be compiled into bytecode only once, and it will execute and give the results. So that is the major difference between typing normally and using paste mode. I'm not sure. In Python, everything is object, and in Scala, everything is class. I'm not sure whether this statement is correct. I'm not a master in Python, but as per my knowledge, Python is not a completely programming. It's not fundamentally an object-oriented programming language. Probably they might have added object-oriented features to it. So I'm not sure about whether Python everything is object or not. In Scala, everything is class, means class. See, if you instantiate a class, it is an object. So you cannot differentiate like that. Okay, Prashanthi, no need to bring the YouTube questions here. We are not supposed to answer those questions. Okay, so if you want to, you can keep the log of those questions, and I will try to answer sometime later if it is relevant for the live audience. But to answer this question, yes, we can see the class generated. At least the metadata generated, we can see that. I will show probably in tomorrow's or day after tomorrow's class. I'm not sure about Python, so don't bring Python to here. If you have any question with respect to Scala, let me know. I will answer that. Okay. So that is about assigning the results of a block of code to a variable. You can also nest the blocks. So in this, A is the variable name, where there is a primary block. Within that, there is a variable B, where we are trying to get the results. So here, B will be of type unit, because we are not returning anything after these 3 lines of code. It will just print these 2 things, and B will be of type unit. It will not have anything. Even A in this case will be unit, because towards the end we are not returning anything. We can copy paste this one. You can see A is of type unit. B, we are not printing anything, so that's why it is not showing here as unit. And if you so the another purpose of this block of code is to understand the scope. So here you can see a variable y is defined in the main block as well as the nested block. Okay, in the main block y is 1, in the nested block y is 2. If I don't have this line of code as part of this println, here you will get value of this. Whereas as we are overriding in this internal block or nested block, y is printed as 2. So you can define variables within each block in the nested block. The most internal block, if it has the variable with the same name, it will override the variables from the higher level blocks or parent blocks. No, I'm just explaining we can use nested blocks also, and yeah, you can use functions as well, but you should know the scoping and all those things. For that purpose, I'm just covering that we can nest the blocks, and sometimes we don't need to create functions for everything. We can actually create function for the higher level one, and then internally you can create a block of code as well to assign it to this stuff. And you will see the advantage of this later. Okay. So I do not understand, Kasi, what is val is immutable. Yeah. So yeah, instead of val, I should have used var. Yeah, if I use var, probably. Yeah, that's a valid point. But if you, so the point of Kasi is, here I am using, I am recreating the immutable variable y again. Somalia, probably you might be listening to me on YouTube. That could be the reason why the screen and voice are not in sync. So if you are using YouTube, just stick to YouTube. Don't mix up YouTube and WebEx. Okay, because there will be latency between WebEx and YouTube. So don't use don't mix up the things. Either go for YouTube or stick to WebEx. If you are not able to hear me, just go to quick start and click call using computer, and you should be able to hear me. Okay, so let me explain the nested block again. You can nest blocks. You can have as many blocks as you want, up to whatever level you want. Okay, so to answer the question of Kasi, and also to clarify to Somalia once again. So when you go to the paste mode, okay, and if you say val a equal to 0 and val a equal to 1, so what it will try to do, it will try to compile both the lines of code as one program. Okay, and if I hit Control D, it will fail, because in that program A is already defined, so you cannot use the same name again within the program. In REPL, if I say val a equal to 0, this is a separate program, and when I say val a equal to 1, this is a separate program internally. So that's why it is working using REPL in typical mode, but in paste mode, the entire code in that that is written in the paste mode will be compiled as one program, and it has to follow certain rules. You cannot have two variables with same name within the same block. Okay, but when you nest like this, you can have a variable with same name in the nested block. If you have a variable with the same name in nested block, when you try to access that, so in this case, when you execute this program, this println statement will actually access this variable. Okay, so I hope that answered your question, Kasi, and also I hope it answered Saumalia's issue because his screen and voice are not in sync. Oh. So we will talk about IntelliJ later. Okay, you might have to dial in and ask question to WebEx, so that those things are also recorded. Okay. So Jana is making a suggestion here. It will be helpful if questions are posted to everyone, so we can relate easier. Yeah, thank you very much, Jana, to remind me. Yeah, that's a very valid suggestion. Make sure you send to everyone when you type the question, so that everyone have the context. Sometimes I repeat, sometimes I do not repeat, and even when I repeat, people might not get it completely. Okay, so please change it to everyone before you ask the question. We are almost at the end of the session, so we'll wrap up today after answering whatever questions that are remaining, and we'll continue wherever we have stopped. We will continue discussing about blocks and all those things. Sorry for starting a little bit late today due to my mistake. I got confused because of different time zones, and instead of starting from today, I started from tomorrow, and so that's where the confusion is, and it costed us 5 minutes of time. Sorry for that. Anyway, so let me answer these questions. So Shravani is asking a very valid question. Her question is, how do I access the inner block y from the outside of the block? So here you have val y equal to 2, and when we use y, as we have variable y from the outer block, it printed without any issue. But if I go to the paste mode once again, and let me copy only till here up to x, and let me copy the rest of the stuff and see how it will behave. So now what we are trying to do, we are trying to access y, which is only in inner block, from the outer block, because we haven't created a variable y in the outer block. Okay, so I have pasted it and hit Control D. So it throws error. So you cannot access the variables in the inner block declared in the null block from the outer blocks. Okay, so very good question, Shravani. I should have explained, but thank you for reminding me. So what is the output of print A? Where is, so if, yeah, let's try. So let me copy paste this code again and print ln A. It is nothing. It just printed these empty circular brackets. It is of type unit. Okay. So that being said, yeah. So Suman, that is correct. Y is like local variable in Java. So the same principles. The reason I am covering is a lot of guys are not from Java background. So just to bring up to speed, I am reiterating these basic programming constructs. Also, syntactically, there are some differences. So even for Java developers, there is a little bit of learning curve in this. You will see that when we actually talk about for loop. For loop is significantly different from Java. Okay, that being said, we are on spot at closing time. We will try to stick to the time. So because everyone have their own limits. Sometimes if it is unavoidable, we will extend for 5 to 10 minutes, not more than that. Otherwise, we'll stick to the time, 8:30 to 10 a.m. India time, and 11 to 12:30 p.m. US Eastern time, and 8 p.m. to 9:30 US Pacific time. So make sure you join on time. I will be hardly 1 or 2 minutes delayed. That too because I have to set up the YouTube session and all those things and make sure everything is properly configured. So beginning, you might lose 1 or 2 minutes. Otherwise, I will be mostly on spot with respect to time. So make sure you join. Even if I am able to be late for 5 to 10 minutes, I will immediately send a WhatsApp message so that you are aware that I will be joining. Yes, Shakti, it is daily 1.5 hours, 20 hours, 20 sessions like that. So there will be no session on July 3rd and July 4th, which is a long weekend. Okay, so that being said, I will spend some time starting from tomorrow towards the end of the session, 5 to 10 minutes. You can ask with any question. You can, as I have material already in the website, you can go ahead of me, ahead of the curriculum of the course, but don't ask the questions while I am talking about the content. As long as the questions are relevant to the content, it is fine. But don't jump ahead and start asking questions which are not yet covered. I will spend 5 to 10 minutes towards the end of the session to answer any questions beyond the topics that are covered for the day. Okay. That being said, thank you, and we will catch up tomorrow. Bye. So those who are on YouTube, thank you very much for joining the session. I will not be able to answer the questions because this is primarily to provide backup for my live audience. However, you can actually follow the content. You can practice. If you have any questions, please go to discuss.itversity.com and start logging your questions over there. There are volunteers, and we will try to address your questions. And if you need environment to practice, go to labs.itversity.com, and the plans are $14.95 for 31 days, $34.95 for 93 days, $54.95 for 185 days. You can sign up for the lab and you can start practicing. Okay. So that being said, if you like the video, please click on the like button. If you want to provide the feedback, please use the comment section of the video once the streaming is done. If you have to share with your friends, just click on share, and you can share on many platforms. And thank you very much. Bye.